Good afternoon. I will be your MC for the next hour for today's forum. Let me thank everyone for those that are attending in person and those that are online. Also, let me thank everyone for the questions that they submitted. So we have a number of valid questions, great questions that you all submitted. As part of the presidential search, we're honored to welcome Mr. Gooden, Dr. Gooden, apologize. And we need to recognize Dr. Taylor with ELA. He wanted to say a few words before we get going.
Thank you, Jim. This is obviously a group of Baptists you're all. I'm Mike Taylor with Executive Leadership Associates, two trustees, some of whom are here today, hired us, employed us to help you and help them do the single most important thing they do as trustees, and that is find the next leader. Dr. Myra Johnson, who's in the back, is also engaged in that search. We are both former presidents, and as faculty and staff know, that means you really don't know what we could do. My faculty and staff would ask me that all the time. Exactly what is your job? But we do appreciate the opportunity to be here. You have a beautiful campus. Between Myra and I, we've probably been on most every campus in the system. And this is certainly a gorgeous campus, and we like to apply. And this is just a really nice region of the state. I did not realize that you were this close to the Virginia border. Yeah. Until I left here one time and passed a sign that said, "Welcome to Virginia." And I live in Emerald Island. So it is a beautiful area. You play an important role in this search. You already have in filling out the surveys that you did, the community survey, faculty staff survey, and then we took that information that was on that, Dr. Johnson and I, and developed a presidential profile. So you've already played an important role in this process, and you're going to play an important role again because you're going to have the opportunity not only to question Dr. Gooden and the two other candidates, but to submit those results online. And Dr. Johnson and I will look at those, and we will compile those and share that information with the trustees. One thing this is not, that survey that you can respond to, it is not a ballot. We're not going to tell the trustees, well, 83% like, I'm going to give you the first, but I'm going to say the same thing on Monday and Tuesday with the other candidates. So it is not a ballot. We don't want you one day to see the board chairman at the grocery store and say, well, you didn't pay attention to who I wanted. But it is an opportunity for you to provide them with feedback. And the only bad question today is one that you will not ask of this candidate. So we encourage you to ask a lot of good questions.
Thank you. With that, we're going to ask Dr. Gooden to give us a little intro about himself.
Well, good afternoon, Pacer family, right? Good. It's indeed a delight to be here and an honor. One of the elements of a successful search from my experience at Valencia is the candidate experience. So I just want to say thanks to ELA, our board chair, and the trustees and organization that has put together the search. It has been a delightful experience. I am Dr. Lancelot Arthur Gooden, remember the name, proud provost of the Osceola and Poinciana campuses at Valencia College in Orlando, Florida. It's an honor and just a humbling experience to be a finalist for the president of Piedmont Community College. A little bit about my background. I was born and raised in a rural farming community in Clarendon, Jamaica, just south of Cuba. In 1996, I immigrated to the United States, where I pursued my undergraduate degree in mathematics at St. Augustine's College, now University. Raleigh, North Carolina was a place where I met my wife, Katina Gooden, and gave birth to our beautiful children, Mateus Arthur Gooden, brought my middle name, and my daughter, Celine Danella Gooden. Both, my son is 16, a rising junior. My daughter, she's 10, and she's a rising fifth grader. We relocated in 2022 to Valencia College in Orlando for this opportunity to lead such a great institution. And it has been just an incredible experience. My family in Jamaica is very large, and one of the beauty about my experiences growing up in that rural community in Jamaica is just the farming experience and what those values has taught me. But most importantly, my dad, who I recently found out, which is interesting, never obtained a high school diploma. He had a certificate, more of a vocational certificate that led to the numerous skills that he possessed in farming. But also my mom, who's my late mom, was a principal at the local middle school. That's really equivalent here. And was a pillar in the community. But both instilled in us, myself and my siblings, that education, that was an avenue for prosperity, an avenue to uplift community. So I know firsthand the value of education and what it means for an individual to grow and thrive. And those experiences and my collective experiences growing up in a rural community, working at Johnson Community College, working at Durham Technical Community College in Valencia, what that has taught me, what I've learned about what it means to serve our students and the impact it can have on their lives and their families. Again, I'm delighted to be here, and I want to make sure I protect this time to answer as many of your questions as possible. Thank you.
Well, again, let's welcome Dr. Gooden. And with that, we're going to start off with the first question. The first question is how did you first learn about PCC?
Well, that's through my search, looking for an opportunity to advance in my career. I think the timing is right for me to seek presidency at an institution. Valencia, sharing full transparency, is going through restructuring. The restructuring came through numerous discernment processes that I need not explain, but it also led to the elimination of the campus provost or president's role, one including mine. So that was announced middle of March. And Dr. Plinsky and the team has been gracious to give me a great transition time through to the end of July. So, I shared with the Leadership Council earlier, whenever my personal conviction aligns with institutional need, that's the framework I use to determine my next transition process. And I think it's divine intervention or timing that this opportunity came available. I haven't applied to many positions because, I'm very selective in terms of how my personal convictions align with institutional need, the focus on student success, just how incredible you are responding to your workforce needs, and the engagement with the community were key pillars. But also applied to the president position at Augusta Technical College in Georgia as well. So I've really narrowed my selection, and PCC seems as an institution I would love to be able to lead. And one of the other discernment process is to be able to lead as a president in the college that's growing. I want to be able to grow with a college that's growing in alignment with its community. Hence here, PCC.
Thank you. Our next question is, what inspired you to pursue this position at PCC, and what insights did you gain from your research or visit to PCC?
Yeah. What inspired me? Well, I consulted with my wife. And, we went through numerous conversations because if I'm offered this position, it would be a transition process for me and my family, as in I would be here, and my wife and children would be in Orlando, Florida, completing, at least my son, at least we're committed for him completing his high school. So I would rely on your family connections and support. So that piece was key, that I recognized from a rural community college, just as what I've experienced at Durham Tech, I'm sorry, not Durham Tech, but Johnson Community College, that you're family. I've lived that for 16 years. and I know I'll be well taken care of, just as well I would support you and lead you in the right direction. But that conversation with my wife and what it would look like was important, but also the opportunity to really lead with an institution that I recognize that's growing with a community. I looked at your data internally, externally. Your enrollment growth is incredible, thanks to the work of the incredible team here. I love the fact that you're so focused on the workforce. Yeah, that's a strength of mine from my work at Durham Technical Community College. We know, especially coming out of the pandemic, the importance of responding to your workforce. If as a community college, you're not responding to your local workforce needs, then who are you serving? Why are you here? I remember my doctoral program, a question in a class as well, does the community need the college? I was like, of course. Well, does it? Does person in Caldwell County need PCC? I imagine you've answered that. And I really like the fact how you're responding to it. Are there challenges? Yes. And thanks to the state has provided rich data through my future MC that we're all familiar with, that's showing what are the opportunities, what are the challenges, what are you doing well, and your amazing state dashboard, and your institutional data, and your strategies. Your seed project, that's a national project. When that gets off the ground, you gotta share that news broadly so that can be replicated elsewhere. So the way in which you're responding to your community was really a draw for me. And those are some of the work that we've done at Valencia. The PACER Promise, I'm a part of an instrumental promise program also in Osceola County called Osceola Prosper. So those promise programs are great, as you know, for college access, because in really serving our communities, we recognize the financial needs, and working with your county commissioners and county government to create those opportunities is also really critical. And I see, what from my experiences, especially now, promise, I see possibility, promise, and purpose in what I've experienced thus far here at PCC. And I say your future is bright, and I'd love to be a part of this great institution.
Wonderful. Next question. Will you reside in the service area if selected?
Of course, the service area. I think it's vital for a president to reside in the service area for numerous reasons. Those are things, obviously, my wife and I are looking at what that might look like, but I rely on of course, the team here in terms of that discernment process, because to be able to be anchored in the community, which I believe the president of the institution should reside in the service area. What that looks like, I don't know yet, but that's critical for proximity and to be able to be responsive in the way the individual needs to be. So that is also a part of the conversation I had with my wife before I applied as well. So those are things that that were part of my discernment process.
Thank you. How would you keep the board informed of key developments and ensure ongoing alignment between leadership and governance?
Yeah, well, it will come from the brilliance of the Leadership Council and how we collaborate and create a reporting structure to really actively engage with each other, the college, the community, and communicate that in a succinct or board chair and the board of trustees. I think it's important that we, especially what I've learned on President Polinsky's leadership, that you stay actively engaged with the board as a president and be very communicative in the daily key priorities of the college that aligns, of course, with the support and priorities that the board actually provides. So, for me, I hope to continue to, if selected, learn from my leadership team, learn from the college, learn from the community, and also what are my priorities from the board of trustees, so I can make sure the communication is alignment, and also with your institution's mission and strategic plan as that's revamped and articulated. That's key.
Wonderful. One questionnaire has indicated in their research that you are a vanguard with the Black Empowerment and Community Council, BECC. How will your relationship with outside organizations impact your role as president at PCC?
I'll say this phrase: You say Vanguard, and I'll say beneath that, the phrase was architect for educational excellence. So for whomever posed that question, thank you for it. And because of my work recognized by President Polinsky, instrumental in engaging in the community in a way that will likely be replicated across Valencia College, as we know, one of the top colleges in the nation. The Vanguard recognized my work in the community. So the Vanguard Award, as a Black leader in the community, recognized in 3 years what I've done in Osceola County. And that was an honor to receive that award. In fact, the next Vanguard Award is the 21st. When I return, I'll be presenting that award to the next Vanguard winner. So so my affiliation with the Black Empowerment Community Council is from that award. And as you know, the legislation that's being passed now in Florida was passed in North Carolina, was passed in Florida a couple of years ago. So there's no way I could really be affiliated with that institution, with that organization under Valencia's name. So I want to be clear with that. Otherwise, I would not have a job 2 years ago. So, but it's just, that's one of the many community recognitions I've received. And BECC is one of those that actually provided that honor that I'm proud of.
Thank you. Can you describe your experience with fundraising, obtaining grants, and managing them?
Yeah, for the sake of time, the one most recent grant is the $3 million grant through the Department of Education, which is a capacity building and infrastructure building grant to advance Valencia's, I would say, initiatives in supporting adult learners. This is something that we came together collectively as a senior team or executive council in terms of credit for prior learning as a priority for the college. And I was assigned to lead that work with that assignment and the discernment process, again, engaging with individuals across the college. We coined adult learner as our focus, and working with the grant team, we wrote a grant for supporting our adult learners, and that's a $3 million grant that's now being implemented. That grant is structured in such that the focus is to re-engage, re-enroll, retain, and support adult learners through two of our workforce pillars, which is under the School of Business and the School of Engineering, Technology, and Advanced Manufacturing pathways. And these are high-paying, high-demand jobs. One of the key things that led to that particular grant was recognizing our high number of stop-outs. A large percentage of those are adult learners, and recognizing that also aligns with some of the community challenges we've recognized. So that's one of the works I've done in terms of leading grants and obtaining funding to advance an institution's priorities and goals.
Thank you. Do you believe it is essential to pursue competitive grants?
It is, but with wisdom. I think one of the things we've learned at Valencia, we've kind of slowed that process, because in obtaining grants, you have to sustain them. And if grants work the same way in North Carolina, and from what you've done, over a certain period of time, the life of the grant, there's an institutional commitment. So I would say we do that with wisdom, and the key, with really financial wisdom perspective, to put things in perspective, to ensure that the collective grants that you have, by the time you approach the life of the grant, the institution has the financial resources to support those grants. I have experienced grants where the institution no longer had the capacity to support those grants, and in that sense, that particular initiative, which was really phenomenal and great for the college and community, essentially, just kind of phased away. So I think we also, I imagine at PCC you're doing that as well. You're not just going after grants for the sake of it, and the fact that it aligns with your need and initiatives, but you have to be able to sustain that grant. And so you want to assess your financial resources to be able to do that.
Thank you. What experience have you had with budgeting and financial management in higher education?
Well, from my experiences, those are from the various leadership levels. I'd say with a relatively large budget, I had a relatively large budget at Durham Technical Community College, but much larger at Valencia, and I had really more autonomy to lead with the budget allocations there. I would say that I would say more indirectly, I'm very involved in that budgeting process with the leadership team at Valencia, being a part of that president cabinet. So, I'm not someone who is a CFO. However, it's a part of that process. So when I think about budgeting from a perspective of personnel and faculty hiring, I think the college-wide initiative that I've led in terms of hiring, it's a part of the budgeting process. So that's human resource management, as you know, which is critical to any institution's budget. So from that perspective, the way in which we discern how to propose positions for a college the size of Valencia, 70,000 students, in terms of the faculty positions we'd like our president and team to approve, is a part of that budgeting process. And I think it's something that I've learned over the past 3 years for a college of that magnitude that's really important in how we really are smart in our human resource management and strategic in how we budget from that perspective.
Thanks. How do you recruit and retain qualified faculty and staff?
It's your hiring process. Your hiring process is key, and discernment process in which you're going through now. Learn about the individual's discerning process as well. I think I always share with my team, when you do that internal work and you work with your human resource team and you start to market and putting out the position, it's important that we're strategic or not as selective when we advertise your position. Be open to looking for just the most skilled individuals to come in and advance your work. But also keep in mind in that process that you too are being interviewed and that individuals are also trying to make a decision. So that alignment is really key, that when you make that decision to bring that person on board, that you have created a very robust process, one that articulates your needs very well, and that your matrix for the discernment here maps well with the individual, and then the interactions, right? Who is this individual? Often we use the word fit, and that's fine, but it's a part of a discerning process. What does this individual bring as an asset to advance the institution? Something I have done when I led college-wide searches, at Valencia College and other institutions.
Thank you. How would you inspire and lead teams towards a positive, inclusive, and productive work culture?
A collective vision. That's something, I'm proud of what we did at Valencia, Osceola, and Poinciana campuses. But that comes through listening and building trust. So, I've shared with the team, the leadership council earlier, my strategy would be listening, learning, leading, launching. And those aren't mutually exclusive. However, listening, the first thing. I love, one-on-ones, lunch and learns, listening sessions, listening tours, however you name it. I want to learn about the individual. A college of this size that's so intimate, I would want to know to get each and every one of you, not just by your name. Who are you? Tell me about your family. I should a bit about my family, right? And my background. And, I'd love to learn what keeps you coming back to PCC, what you love about Person County, Caswell County. How would you like to see the college grow in alignment with the community? What continued impact would you like to make on the community? So I want to learn those things about you, and also what you continue to want to see in the next president or individuals who lead this college.
Thanks. What experience have you had building partnerships with local industries, and how did you build those?
Which ones can I speak to? We've had experiences. I speak a little bit to our neighbor, Durham Tech. I won't share too much, but as the inaugural dean of BEST, Building, Engineering, and Skilled Trades, it was a pivotal time for Durham Tech when Many of us were working remotely, but our best team, if anyone is listening, they are, because they were neighbors, that was it, just an incredible family. And it was an exciting time because the now Ingram building was being built. And we were transitioning from the Newton building, which is all the workforce programs, to then revamp and expand in response to our community's needs. So we, I won't speak specifically to the types of programs. I hope that's okay. Just, there's not everything I need to share from Durham Tech, but we met with our companies and industries that relocated to the region. And you know of them. You can guess who they are. But we met with the CEOs and learned about their needs. What is it you need? And how can we revamp and realign our programs so that we can produce our graduates in time to support your needs? And that was really challenging. So, many of Durham Tech apprenticeships were done under my leadership with my team, who are incredible. So we found innovative ways to respond by creating apprenticeships, articulating our non-credit to credit programs that was key, from credit mobility, and innovative community partnerships that really, I think, materialized and are flourishing now at Durham Tech. So I'm just grateful for the work I've done under President Buxton's leadership and the team there at BEST. And they're thriving. So, but many of the information is accessible on the webpage, but I apologize for not being able to speak the level of details that you may need. But I want you to understand that under my leadership and the team, we acquired much in response to our community.
Thank you. How would you ensure PCC stays relevant with state, local, and federal issues?
Well, we have our community college system, and we have to be well researched about what's happening nationally. But working with our neighbors and our partners is key. As you know, and I don't think you've ever done that, you do not lead in isolation. So our collaboration with our system presidents is key. Our presidents across our community colleges, to ensure that there are opportunities to rely on our collective strengths to lead. And it's important that we're responding to legislation in a way that we're remaining compliant. Compliance has always been a key and focus for us at Valencia, because as a leader, this comes with great responsibility. You never want to put the institution, individuals, the community at risk. So remain in compliance, so you stay abreast. My daily practice every morning, I'm reading what's happening nationally, locally, and align up with policies that are emerging. So stay abreast with what's coming and the implications, and discuss that with your team. And really just compare notes, with your neighbors, and understand how to respond in a smart way so that we are remaining compliant and not putting the institution at risk.
Thank you. What would be your vision to continue the growth in student enrollment at PCC?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, we have an amazing team. So my vision is continue building on the great work happening that took you this far. But from what I've read thus far, we see that there are opportunities to really tap into our opportunity youth that's glaring in your data in both Person and Caswell County. However, we have a strategic enrollment management plan that's emerging. Look at what's in that plan and how we can build from those strategies, and look external. We have adult learners, which also is another opportunity for growth. You have a focus on adult learners. We can leverage that, because one thing that we've recognized, and you may know, that we've actually reached a peak, which you might have known, with our high school graduates, which means that's nationally. So looking at national data, mind if I get some water? Give it a try. That national data shows that we're at a peak, and which goes back to why we kind of launched that adult learner focus initiative at Valencia. It's important to tap into your adults 20, 25 or older. There are opportunities there, because looking at both counties, I think combined, I would estimate about 5,000 adults with an opportunity to bring back to PCC. Bolster your early college initiatives and dual enrollment, so you're going to tap into that workforce. but there are opportunities in your opportunity youth, adult learners, and building on the key strategies and strength from your strategic enrollment plan, along with your impact plan, is really a key priority in growing your enrollment and building on the work that you've already been doing.
Thank you. The service area is unique, small town, and quaint. Is that something of value to preserve?
Preservation, that's a tough one. The unique things one should always preserve. In terms of a small town, and say the other?
It was small town, unique, and quaint.
How do I guess you try your best to preserve that while responding with economic development. You know, when we think about what does a community need, I mean, what kind of growth do you aspire to achieve? I think it's important we think about preservation of unique things to the communities while responding to a greater need. The data points to challenges happening in the community. You know, how many of the residents have jobs here in the community? What percentage of your residents, and the data is out there, we've seen it, leave person in Caldwell County to employ? That's a strain on individuals. So I will say preservation to what extent? There's some aspects of that you can preserve. And I've experienced that in Johnston County, which is a rural community, which is now one of the fastest growing counties in the nation and the fastest in North Carolina. So how are you trying to restrict that growth to preserve some aspects of the community, but to what extent? That's what I would say, because it's about economic development and prosperity for the individuals. So if you are going to preserve this aspect of the region at risk of the residents, then that's I don't know if anyone would want to make that decision. That's my answer.
Thank you. How would you envision creating community-centered activities on campus?
I mean, I imagine in some ways that's happening. So at Valencia, we always, when we pose those questions like, where's it happening? So I would say, where's it happening? And I imagine you would say it's happening in these ways. And we want to be able to build on that, right? Because one of the key things is to bring the community to the college. And from the tours I've had, like a recurring theme is that you're constantly bringing community members to utilize your facilities. But bringing a community center is one for us to imagine together. We use the term co-create or co-design a lot at Valencia, but I think that's a really great idea that I think aligns with my community engagement strategies I've done at Valencia, is really thinking about that community engagement center on campus. Because the more visible you are to the community, I think the more the community realize the value you bring to build and bring prosperity to the individual. So that's something I would love for us to co-design together. What does that look like? And let's find a way to envision that together so it becomes our collective effort and our collective ideas, and we can all be proud of it.
Okay. How do you define a successfully run college?
That's a great question. You know, years ago, one of my rule of thumb is that within a 1 mile radius of a college, there should be economic prosperity. And that's interesting because I've visited many colleges. So typically I drive around and within 1 mile of the college, what's happening? Because if you're just jumping out that 1 mile radius, which is still a part of the community, what's happening right there in front of you? If you are not seeing the issue and addressing the issue right in front of you, and you're impacting the community, it's fine. You're not doing your best work. Start from within and work out. That's what I would say. And that's off your campuses. 1 mile radius. That's my rule of thumb, and I'm going to stick with it.
Okay. What would you consider to be your leadership style?
My leadership style it comes through the lens of one that's student-centered, values-driven, and humanity-focused. Now, I've always believed our students, our greatest resources and greatest assets. Um, from a design thinking perspective, everything we do is for the success of our students. When our students are successful, we all are, right? But in saying that, it's important that from a values-driven perspective, we're true to who we are, our values in alignment with the values of the institution. But then the humanity-focused one, for me, has always been my strength that I bring also in terms of who we are as people. And you're wondering, what does it look like in practice? Because I also believe in the well-being of individuals, that our strategies are not additive, that we're constantly doing more and more and more, and it's burnout, that it's transformative and it's efficient. Fortunately, and maybe not so fortunate, I've experienced individuals burnout, and the burnout is real. And I, one who cares about the well-being of individuals, not only our students but our employees. So, my team, one of my team members would always say, doing less is more, or my math dean. And one of the principles I launched at Valencia Osceola is the 1 degree shift. And I forgot the author's name already, but it is the idea of incremental things that would make lasting impact. So we have adopted the principle of the 1 degree shift. So do things incrementally. And the fact, the 1 degree shift over time, you will see that lasting result. So, my humanity-focused leadership is really focused on well-being of the individual, and that you're not leading to burnout quickly, because that can happen, especially if you're so passionate about your work. You keep doing, and burn yourself out. And I want to be able to be a part of a culture that applies those lenses, focus on our students, true to our values, but also we care about the well-being of each other in our community.
Okay. What would others say best describes you?
I'm a good listener. Because I tend to listen more. My dad would say, you have one mouth and two ears, and they're of interesting size that way. So listen more than you speak, and I share the team. I employ empathetic and strategic listening, and empathetic listening just to hear from the individuals, to learn about, sometimes you're going through things, and sometimes it's best just to listen. And the strategic listen is always important to addressing the misconceptions. The other, my former boss, when I was at Durham Tech, shared of high emotional intelligence. And I've been through some interesting times. And through the times of turmoil, I am the one that's as calm as a cuckoo bird, as my dad would say. So it's through listening and emotional intelligence.
And our last submitted question is, what is your long-term professional focus?
I'm not going to name a title. I think I want to be able to lead, in such a way I can make the greatest impact possible. One of the quotes that have always resonated with me, and that's usually an inscription of my private email, is from Nelson Mandela. He said, "What counts in life is not the mere fact that you have lived. It is the difference you have made in the life of others who determine the significance of the life that you lead." I want to make a difference. I want to continue to make a difference wherever I go, wherever I land, and be impactful in a way that changes the life of others. Because it is that quote that drives the way I lead.
Okay. With that, do we have any questions from the audience? Or do you have any questions for them?
I have questions. So I would like for you to ask yours. If there's no more call. If not, no. Okay.
Any questions?
Going once, twice. I'll start with the easiest.
Okay.
What keeps you coming back to PCC? Oh, come on.
Thank you, Ed. What keeps you coming back to PCC?
Well, I think it's the day-to-day challenges that, in my position, it's the ongoing maintenance of the facilities, the capital projects that we have going on, and it's it's the daily challenge, and that's to do which the college has allowed me to do.
Okay. Thank you, Ed. Anyone else? Next, how do you respond when things do not go your way? These are not gotcha questions. A show of hands of those who live in Person County. Ooh. Okay, that's the majority of the room. Coswell, I'm assuming. External to both counties. Good. Anyone in Virginia? No. I've noticed some interesting data because we know we're so close to Virginia, especially Danville. So, is that a hand up, Virginia?
Oh, I'm on the delay on the live stream, so I would say another about.
Oh, okay. Outside. Well, fascinating.
What happens when things don't go your way? My name is Ron Booker.
Nice to meet you, Ron.
I would suggest that you advance in a different direction. Can't have your way all the time. So you absorb what you learn from what you have experienced, and you move in a different direction. I hope that was.
Thank you. Okay. How do you lead during difficult times? And we've all experienced that during the pandemic. And I view every one of us are leaders. We lead from our seats and lead in some capacity. So how do you lead during difficult times? And you could speak to the pandemic or any other time, but I'd love some specificity around that.
I think that you hit on it earlier when you were talking about leading with empathy.
Yes.
When you're dealing with difficult times, empathy has to be at the center of what you're doing because everybody's dealing with whatever their perspective of that crisis is, whether it's the pandemic or something else, a death in the family or whatever may be going on. We have to uphold our standards and we have to get our jobs done, but we don't have to do it in such a way that we're putting extra pressure on an already bad situation. So empathy, I think, is the key to that for me.
Thank you for that. Anyone else?
Probably don't need this, but Dr. Gooden, as Vice President, what has been your best and worst day?
My best. I'll start with my worst day because I want to build up and turn the lights back on. My worst day or season was when at Valencia we had to scrub our page of diversity, inclusion, and all the initiatives related to that. Because what led to that was a portion of erasure. Because when hired into any job or a role of that magnitude, there's your picture, there's your bio, and to see my picture as a first-generation immigrant and a first-generation college student, that was a point of pride for my dad and my family. And I'm still healing. But to see that removed, right? And that's rightfully so, institutions are choice to respond that way. I felt like I was being erased. I feel like I was literally invisible. So my worst day was feeling invisible because I walked into my office and my name was no longer on the plate. I'm not getting emotional. My best was rebounding from that and a period or season of hope resurfaced, and we started to enjoy engaging and supporting our students, and their life continued on, our campuses, and enjoy the Osceola Magic basketball games in the community. It's hard to miss those, but we can take a trip there every now and then. I'm a huge Osceola Magic fan, but you're really enjoying the community life for a community that's thriving in Osceola, and that was promising and just gave me a renewed sense of purpose. So thank you for that question. I had to dig deep and resurface some things and try to put away, but there's hope. Thank you, Chairman. Any other questions, or keep asking questions? Yes.
So you mentioned your family. I'm a parent also.
Yes.
And a lot of times if I'm facing a difficult situation or question, I try to think about how would I respond if it were my daughter, or how would I want it to work out for my own child. So with that in mind, and you have a son who's getting ready to go to college, what are you looking for in colleges for your children?
Great question. So one of the things I gave my son a project. I said I would like for you to select your top 4 colleges, and 1 in state of Florida, and the rest elsewhere. I knew what I was looking for, but he created his own criteria, and I would say he did an amazing job presenting on each of the 4 colleges. So he presented on Georgia Tech, Florida State, NC State, and Carnegie Mellon. And he created a matrix looking at the athletic focus and their ranking nationally and statewide. I'm like, this kid is 16. I did not give him those criteria. I just frame a question. He looked at the cost in state and out of state. He looked at financial aid. He looked at a demographic student breakdown. He looked at the on-campus life. I'm not going to tell you all of it, but he looked at all those criteria, and then he created a matrix that compared the 4 colleges that aligned with all this criteria. And then he asked us, dad and mom, and his younger sister, like which one we think is his top. And I think NC State and Florida State had green checks across all the criteria. But the ones that were the top 2, what stood out was also community. And it was interesting because he identifies as multiracial, because I'm from Jamaica. My wife is, born, raised in North Carolina. And he looked at those particular demographics as communicated on the web pages as well. And we also looked at the financial cost, and we said, please, don't make that be a discerning factor yet. But he looked at community. For us, or for me, that's important because they're in a space where they feel like they belong and they've found community. And while I'm not going to compare Florida's academic, standards to North Carolina's, I know that when they found community, they are thriving. And that's also one of the reasons I cannot disrupt that if selected as president. And I'm willing, my wife and I, to make that sacrifice so we can preserve community so they can continue to thrive and achieve their maximum potential. Something I would want for any student I'm tasked to lead. Thank you for that question.
Other questions?
I heard there'll be a lot of questions flowing over the seats, so
You talked about your worst day being that day of erasure.
Yes.
Even at a small school like this, it can be very easy for whether it be an employee or even student to feel as if they're not seen and not heard.
Mm-hmm.
As president, how do you plan to, and how do you, in your current role and the previous roles, ensure that people don't feel erased or dismissed, as it can be so easy to do?
Been seen, valued in words of affirmation. I think, in my current role, we have created just the Valencia culture based on big ideas, and I've shared with the group before, and I'll continue to share with them. Anyone can learn anything on the right conditions, but there's another, and I won't go through all 6 big ideas, but the other that goes in conjunction with that is that the college is how the students experience us and not how we experience them. So then it's creating those pockets to learn about the students' experiences. And I'll give an example. President Polinsky has a group called PSAB, President Student Advisory Board. I would love if that doesn't exist to adopt that, because I've adopted that PSAB to be Provost Student Advisory Board. So I have an advisory group of students that I convene maybe once a month, and I'll alternate my campuses to learn about how you're experiencing the campuses. And they will tell you so much, and then we affirm what they've shared by taking their words and ideas and putting that to action. I would love to replicate that, not only for students, but for faculty and staff. Sometimes it irks me to say that, sorry, because it's your identity, but it's really our employees, right? I would love to hear about your collective experiences, and so that you feel that you're heard, right? And not just, okay, we said these things, and, President Gooden just listen to us. But we want to be able to hear what you have to share and act on that. So those words of affirmation and taking what you've shared and putting that to action is key. And those things, we've done at Valencia for students, and we've done that for employees. I would love to replicate that here if hired as the next president.
Any additional questions? I'll end with this question. Why wasn't Valencia on your son's list?
So he's a deliverable student right now.
Okay.
And I said every Valencia said I have the Puma, we're Pumas, right? So I have the Puma logo like week 1 is on your door. And everyone's like, I'm your Puma. So he's deliverable. But Valencia didn't fit his criteria, and I did not argue that from the comprehensive matrix he designed. I really wanted him to be right next to me, but everything happens for a reason.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Gooden. We really appreciate it.
Dr. Gooden, thank you so much for taking the time to come in and visit and go with us on these different tours, and we thank you for this interview. Thank you for the forum, for those within the community, those within the college that have came here today and participated in this. You are a major stakeholder. You will help us make a decision, man. The survey is so important, and please take your time to fill that out, okay? What we heard today was very good, I think, and we truly appreciate it. ELA, thank you so much for what you have to get us here. We just could not have been here without you. Thank you so much. I don't know where Dr. Taylor is, she's still here or not, but I see you. Thank you so much. Dr. Boham, thank you also. Again, give yourselves a hand. Thank you so much.
I just want to say that, I said earlier with purpose, promise, and possibility. Those are my key takeaways. I came in here obviously with anxiety, nervousness, apprehension, doubt, imposter syndrome, but leave thinking about purpose. You're a purpose-driven college. You're true to your mission. In transforming lives, just building your communities, and inspiring individuals to excellence. There's possibility. There's so much out there. The growth you're building towards that. You have so many incredible initiatives that I know will just continue to uplift the communities here, and the possibilities are endless. That's what I'll take away with me. So I just want to thank you for this opportunity. I'm truly humbled and inspired for what you do. Just know I'm a complete admiration for BCC. So I'll just say, keep being pace setters, keep pacing ahead. You're doing great things. Thank you.